Hello, everyone, and welcome to our intimate discussion room to talk about Valhrona's climate-related journey and explore a little bit of what's going on for everyone who's joining us. Also, we'll have at the end of this session a part on a Miro board, and I'll put the link up in the chat so you guys can all open that maybe a little bit ahead of time if you've never used Miro before. It's kind of like a virtual whiteboard with tons of little Post-its and so forth. And you'll see when you get there that there are 4 sections for the 4 different sessions that are being held right now in parallel. And there's one for us, which will have the name Valhrona, who is our guest star today. So without further ado, we will start our introductions. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm your host, calling in from near Paris, France. I'm co-founder of a French B Corp, one of the first B Corps in France, called Ma Bonne Étoile. And I'm also an elected board member to the association B-Lab France. I represent the smallest companies in our community. And my co-host today, who is, depending on which side of my screen you're on, is Renaud Bétain. I'll let you introduce yourself, Renaud.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you, Elizabeth. Renaud, I'm a lead climate expert, head of carbon at Sweep, which is a startup, and we are offering a digital solution, let's say a software, to ease that climate-related journey for any companies. And we are pending status B Corp. Then I spent like 12 years working on carbon finance for projects, but also at Carbon 4, I was the leader of the Net Zero initiative before César get the suit. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so off to you, Julia. Tell us a little bit about what you do at Valhrona.
Hello everyone, my name is Julia Holiday. I'm Sustainability Project Manager at Valhrona. I'm part of a team of 3 sustainability professionals, I guess, at Valhrona. I've been at the company for almost 7 years, 5 in the CSR team. And today I work with our head of environment to plan, manage our carbon neutrality strategy. So before that, I've been working a lot around cocoa, kind of human rights in cocoa, and also how to help our clients become more sustainable. So we kind of try and split our things we do to improve Valhrona's impact all within the team. Valhrona itself is a high-end chocolate manufacturer. For those of you that don't know, we've been around for almost 100 years, and we have been B Corp as of January 2020. And so I guess I would probably kick off about what we do in terms of carbon neutrality.
Sure, that'd be fantastic.
So today our aim is to become carbon neutral by 2025 from plantation to plate, which is a big ask. This is a commitment we took in 2018. And I think we'll be discussing maybe a little bit later in the call about the wording we've used, and then also maybe the changes that we'll think about in future. And when we first started our carbon and climate journey, it was in 2013 when we did our first carbon footprint analysis. And in 2015, we took our first carbon commitment to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 50% for scopes 1 and 2, so in our factory. And 2018 is when we took the full scope by not many years in the future. So quite a leap in the past decade. That's our pledge.
Great. Okay, so just in between Julia's explanations, I don't know how many of you here. We're a small group, so feel free to turn on or leave off your cameras if you want, and write in the chat and talk to us all. Any questions that you may have. We'll continue this presentation for about another 10 minutes, and then we'll have a question and answer session for 10 minutes before we move into our breakout rooms. So in between the explanations that Julia is giving, I want to make sure that everyone's familiar with the 4 Ps of the Net Zero 2030 from B Corp. I might backtrack that for a second and ask how many people in the room are from a B Corp. Do you raise a hand? I can just throw a little questionnaire into there, maybe. Nope. Nope, I can't. I don't have the right one set up. That's okay. I will skip that part. Just anybody speak up? Is anybody here not from a B Corp? We can go that direction. Great, Karina. That's fantastic. Oh, fantastic. Great. Hi, Jennifer. We're happy to have you with us. Hope you're having a good evening in Taiwan. Bee Leaders, that's an excellent program. Absolutely, Benoit. Super, okay. Welcome, Jeff. Happy to help you to have you discover how this is all working. So there is a 4P, basically, methodology in the Net Zero 2030 program. And I can put a little link for you guys in the chat so that you can discover that. For those of you who don't know it, let me pop that in there. So that is the link to all the explanation about the commitment that most of the B Corps in this room have made, I'm sure, to the Net Zero 2030 program. And it follows around a 4P framework. So the basic elements are pledge, plan, publish, and proceed. And we'll go through that also in your individual breakout rooms. And so from that point of view, and if we have guests, it's going to be easier to tackle it that way. Did you basically, you gave your pledge, Julia? That's what you just gave?
Yes, I gave my pledge. I didn't give the kind of the breakdown of the breakdown. But yes, basically that's our pledge.
Okay, great. So we did prepare a few little things for you when we talk about pledge. Let me just put it here. All right, so I'm just going to I'm going to share my screen with everybody. Thank you for your patience with me. Okay, can you guys see my screen? I think you should be able to. All right, view, present. All right, so the first thing we just want to say about the pledge is that it's all about what the goal is that you have set, which can either be, you can use the language that you want to use. It's either a net zero goal or a climate related goal. And we just want to be sure that your climate related commitment is coherent with the global neutrality objective, which is expected to be achieved by 2050 at the latest. And any individual related climate commitments must contain still the understanding that it's something that we will achieve all together, or unfortunately not achieve at all. So we're all together in this boat, everyone. So moving on to the next P, which is plan. Take it away, Julia.
Okay, perfect. Just to complete with the pledge thing, and I'm sure we'll also discuss as well about the importance of a pledge and maybe the importance of a plan. In terms of our neutrality aims, we aim to become carbon neutral in our scopes 1 and 2 by 2020, which we have achieved, although we can discuss what that actually means. And that meant 57% reduction in our emissions and offsetting the rest. And then that's following a 2-degree trajectory. So I think that's something in the future we'll be changing to 1.5. Anyway, so yes, that's our pledge. In terms of our plan, well, obviously, once you've got a pledge, you need to actually work out how to get there. And so what we did is we tried to base our actions around getting the right data. So firstly, we did as I said, a carbon footprint analysis in 2013, which we then renewed in 2018. And that's given us an idea of where our biggest impacts are. Obviously, no surprise, scope 3 is the biggest. And so in terms of the first things that we did to improve our impact in our chocolate factory, we made quite a lot of, we worked to get our senior board on board. So we did like workshops and stuff. So the idea was raise awareness and then get commitments to investments in resources and people to try and improve that impact. So in terms of our scopes 1 and 2, that meant investing in a team that was dedicated towards energy, because that was one of the biggest areas that we could reduce our footprint in our factory, and also working towards an ISO 5001, which would help our structure as well. And we've also put in place energy measurements and other resource consumption technologies and measurements in our factory to help us with the daily follow-up. And then we do internally for scopes 1 and 2 kind of a yearly carbon footprint analysis. Scope 3 is a bit different because it's really big and quite complicated. So we've I don't know if it's more proceed than plan. I've got the two overlap. But yeah, so we've worked first on scopes 1 and 2, and with scopes 3, I think as our pledge, as the awareness rose within Valhrona and the level of maturity around sustainability rose as well, we were able to take a more ambitious commitment and gain greater buy-in and kind of support from our senior leadership team in terms of investment. So that has also made the way that we are able to put action plans or create action plans, that's able to change. So now, for example, our neutrality aim is part of our long-term plan, and that means that in terms of our sourcing, in terms of our transformation, like how we transform cocoa into chocolate, and also how we work with our clients, those are things that we're going to be working on increasingly. But initially it wasn't the ground wasn't as fertile, so we had to take it step by step. So the first thing was just first raise awareness and scopes 1 and 2.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
For you, Julia. We can only manage what we can properly measure.
Mm.
So I have 2 questions. The first one is on your you talked about raising awareness within Valhrona. I'd like to know if you have some people to be empowered in terms of collection of the data, because tomorrow you will ask them to reduce this emission, and they are the closer to the main sources of emission. I mean, the procurement, the HR. So are you going to consider carbon challenges as the human resources? I mean, are you going to manage it on a monthly basis? Instead of one time a year, or maybe
every 3 years.
And my other question is the dialogue with your value chain, with your supplier.
So far it's been, so as I mentioned, the scopes 1 and 2 has been managed internally, and that's on our energy team. So they're the ones that kind of run that, our environment and energy, and our logistics team as well. Have taken commitments as part of the FREP 21 commitment or initiative from the French ADEME. So they are also following carbon emissions, and also the kind of different KPIs, which are then reported monthly to the steering committee. That's internally, and that's scopes 1 and 2 and a bit of logistics. In terms of scope 3, well, actually, in terms of a general overall carbon footprint, we have done those both times with an external agency, which is very detailed and good, but it doesn't mean that we don't have our own hands on the measurements. And what we're looking to do now is, as we go forward, find the right tool and train people up internally so that we can actually have much more regular. Currently, we do it with our aim to do once every 3 years, and that is not enough. We want to be able to actually have really real time. Ideally, the ideal would be real time, but at least once a year carbon footprint analysis of our actions. So the aim is we're looking now to find the right tool, and then hopefully train people up to be able to manage that tool. Currently, it's not the case. And the second thing, dialogue with stakeholders.
Yeah, the dialogue with your let's say stakeholders, because you are dependent.
Yeah.
On
so
their emissions.
So far, it's been with a relatively limited amount of stakeholders, and that would be internally, and then a bit of communication externally about how, in fact, we do want to become carbon neutral. But the next step is obviously to center climate strategy and climate goals in the way we work with our suppliers, the way we work with the whole network. So far, it's been our board members, the environment team, the CSR team, and then the different. Our CSR steering committee is made up of different experts from different departments, so like the head of buying, an HR representative. But it's not. So far, it's been a relatively like a specialized focus, and the aim would be, as we go forward, that becomes something that everyone cares about and everyone manages. This is what we did in terms of when we launched our CSR strategy in 2015. We worked very hard to make CSR become almost ubiquitous and kind of like second nature, and that meant a lot of internally, a lot of kind of training, but also events, a lot of communication internally. And the idea would be to do the same thing around carbon and climate, because obviously it's not just carbon. Because so now CSR in general is something that people in the company think about a lot, and B Corp has definitely helped with that. So the idea would be carbon is the next stage. And in terms of how we work with suppliers, again, it's something we work very closely with our suppliers, particularly our cocoa suppliers, and have long-term commitments to them. But it would be, again, climate and carbon has not been a central focus. It's been one of the things we talk about, but it's not been the main focus. And that's really, if we're going to get to our 2025 goal.
Are they aware about that, these commitments from Valhrona? Because your commitments will one day, it will cascade on them. So are they aware about that?
So they're aware more of we have a longer term commitment, which we talk about a lot more with them, I think, around sustainable agriculture and sustainable farming practices and no deforestation. So when we did our carbon footprint analysis, 67% of our footprint is from cocoa, and that is in large part related to deforestation. So there is commitments around no deforestation, commitments to, and also investment as well, to improving traceability, funding trainings for farmers, access to equipment. Also, we've got different agroforestry projects in Madagascar, Haiti, and Dominican Republic, among others. So the idea is that's where our focus has been, but there's a kind of a knock-on effect to climate, but it hasn't been centered as a discussion point. But it will need to be. That is in the process of changing.
I have like a killing question. Do you know if there is some deforestation in your value chain?
We don't think so. We have worked to, particularly we're part of the Cocoa and Forest Initiative, and so as we have all of our cocoa is traceable to the producer, and we're working on GPS mapping. In Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, no, because of the maps and stuff, we know that. In the others, we're pretty certain it's not the case, but we will know for certain once we finished our GPS mapping. But our suppliers are aware, and that has been communicated to them, and we are. It's not just a top-down thing. Basically, when we work with our suppliers, so around cocoa, we have the idea, because that's our main strategic ingredient. Obviously, chocolate without cocoa doesn't exist. We sign long-term contracts with our suppliers, and that means on average about 7 years. The least is 3 years. The longest can be like 10, sometimes longer. And so within that, when you sign a long-term contract, it's not just about buying, it's also about do our visions align? Do we share the same values? And so that is, whereas part of that commitment is around, we've got a responsible purchasing charter, which includes protection on the environment, and there are things around that. So it is part of the discussions. But we'll know for certain once we finished our GPS mapping, but we're pretty certain it's not the case.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so I just threw our slides up kind of in the middle of your guys' Q&A, which I thought was probably the best way to go about it. And I'll share that slide set also with everyone in the chat so that you can look at them later or while you're working in the breakout rooms. So there's that little slide set about the 4 Ps. We have just about like 5 minutes to take any questions from everyone here in our little room. We had a question from Geoff, which is a large question. I might keep that warm for the breakout room. Are there any other questions anyone has that they want to raise their hand and ask or pop into the chat? Anything sticking out?
I'm happy to chip in here. I'm happy to. Hi, Julia. Well, maybe something around how do you influence others, not your suppliers who are the cocoa farmers, but maybe who are the partners and the people that you work with, you learn from, you influence, either in your cocoa industry or wider in agricultural industry. I mean, it could be, or policy-based influence, you know, in all the ways. Maybe like how is Valhrona acting beyond its supply chain and direct value chain and its own operations?
They're probably not as much as we would like to. No, that's more negative than I actually think. So currently where we're at is that we are pretty solid, I would say, on terms of how we're managing our scopes 1 and 2. Scope 3, we are looking to develop our roadmap. And in terms of how we influence others, it's not the main focus as yet. Although obviously, as I said earlier, no change can happen on its own. So actually, we don't really particularly want to be alone, and that's why we have been, thanks to Elizabeth, talking to other B Corps about how their climate strategies to try and share best practice, kind of on a one-to-one basis. In terms of kind of campaigning or politics, we're not really in that as yet. It's not really a Valhrona thing that we tend to do. Quite, but I think that ideally that would be something that we might develop in the future. We're part of the Alliance 7, so it's kind of the French GAD grouping for chocolate companies. So those kinds of issues get discussed there, but so far not so much. I'd say it's more. If we're talking about plans or how to proceed, I think first we need to get our suppliers on board, and then and see if there are ways of collaborating with people like other B Corps. That's why, kind of, for me, the B Corp Climate Collective is something very interesting, and we don't know quite yet at Valhrona what we can get out of it. But we'd love to have your help, because we don't know the full way to go ahead.
I guess for everyone who's in the room with us, most countries around the world have their own local climate collective, and in France we have one also, of which Julia is a member, and Renaud too, and it helps us also adapt to a local level and work together on a local level on our reduction strategies and our contribution strategies and everything that's involved there. We have a few questions that are popping up, and we're going to have like 1 minute to answer them before we jump out into our breakout rooms. We have a question about stakeholder KPIs and creativity. Go ahead and choose the one, Julia, that you think you can answer in a minute.
Oh, good. Both very good questions. Sorry, I might just go for the first one, because what gets measured gets done. That's very, very true. When we did our carbon footprint analyses, there was a big difference in terms of the amount of our carbon footprint between 2013 and 2018. And in large part, that was because the methodology of how to do the carbon footprint analysis had changed and the data available had changed. So we're using, we worked with Contis, and they were using different databases, including the World Food Life Cycle Analysis database. And so we're using kind of, that's the most, they've got the most around cocoa there, but it's not necessarily as close to what we have, the way the cocoa we source grows. Conventional agriculture, monoculture versus agroforestry is going to be, we think, quite different. Not just for, but also in terms of the producers and their livelihoods, but also in terms of environment. So what we're launching a project in Madagascar currently, which is one of our historical origins, to actually have our own emissions factors and also the methodology to be able to reproduce those measurements, and that will be working with the people there at the plantation. So to identify what the emissions factors are and how we can, what actions we can put in place with them that are most pertinent to actually reduce the impact. So how easy it's been to produce the stakeholder-centric metrics? Not very easy, because every locality is different, and there's quite a lot of specificity. So we're choosing to focus on cocoa. We're choosing to focus on Madagascar first, and hopefully use that methodology with some adjustments, how to reduce that in other origins. But yeah, not particularly easy. It takes money and time. Yeah.
And Elizabeth, very quickly to just trying to ask the question of Minu. I think we are at a turning point with the pop-up of a lot of digital solutions. We are part of it with Sweep, but digitization, the next generation of the footprints, Excel sheet is starting to die, and because it's a pain for a company to deal with it. So a lot of new software as a service, they are popping up, and it will ease, and it will release time to act on reduction and less on measurement. There is that big issue, Julia, of the emission factor and LCA available. So the first way to collaborate is probably to share your own emission factor or LCA. But some solutions are emerging today, and it will. This is the new generation. So I'm a bit afraid for Contis, for example. Yeah.
Sorry, I know that the time is very short, but just also, how do we organize that in our organization? We also do, and we have focused workshops around different topics. So for example, eco design is something that we've had in place since 2017 for our new product. And then so we actually have this little kind of a working group, but we will have creative workshops where we try and do brainstormings to try and tackle particular problems, and then develop that into a process. We kind of believe that we've got quite a lot of good ideas. So our staff has quite a lot of good ideas. So we try and get those involved. There we go.
Okay, great. So now we're going to move on to our breakout rooms. I'm going to put the Miro board link again in the chat. Hold on a second. So if everybody could please click on this link and see if you can see it. That's really the critical point. And I'll show you on the screen right now what it looks like, what you will be seeing. Okay, can everybody see this? So this is what it looks like when you get there, and you'll see that there are 4 boards for the 4 different parallel rooms that are happening right now. And then you'll just need to zoom in on your particular board. So there's going to be 3 rooms in our group, breakout room 1, 2, and 3, and you'll know which one that you're in. And then you just go onto your board. And what we're going to do is take a moment to think about our own companies and how the 4 Ps are working out for us. And please put your name and your companies on the board. And don't forget to take a minute to introduce introduce each other. We have about 15 to work on this, and I want to thank everyone for being here. Let me just check because we're losing people. So let me just check and see if we're okay on our breakout rooms. Okay, no, we're gonna have 2 breakout rooms. We're scaring people off here. And we're gonna have 2 fantastic breakout rooms. Oh, and we have more people. And that we're gonna start, and we'll I'll move between the 2 and see if everyone is okay. Is everybody all right with the Miro boards? Have you guys all been able to get on there? Anybody having a problem, please say something so that we can help you. We're okay? Okay, great. Then in that case, without further ado, I shall move you into the breakout rooms so you can really talk about these issues. And I also shared the slides in case you want to look at those again in what you're working on. I'll put it again there because sometimes people join, they leave, we don't see it anymore. So here we go to the breakout rooms. Thank you to everyone for joining us in this chat today. Thank you especially to Julia for sharing about Valhrona's climate journey, and to Renaud also for asking excellent questions and sharing insights. So here we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Probably go ahead and close the session so that we can take a small break and move on to the next one, which is in 7 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Julia.
Bye.
Bye.